Hey guys, tonight we're stepping into a place you might think you know. But trust me, you've never smelled anything like this before. You're about to walk through the gates of a medieval city, and it's not the fairy tale village from your favorite movie. There's no gentle harp music, no fresh loaves of bread charmingly stacked in a windowsill. What hits you first is the stench. It's as if the entire population had a competition to see who could dump more waste where you walk. You gag, you blink, you push forward. You probably won't survive this. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, while you're at it, let me know your local time and where you're watching from. I love seeing how far this sleepy little channel travels. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The gates creak shut behind you. You're in, and you're immediately regretting every life decision that led to this point. A pig, yes, an actual pig, trots past you on the main road, its hooves kicking up straw mud, and something you're praying isn't human waste. Two children run by, barefoot and laughing, while a fishmonger loudly hawks something vaguely aquatic that's been dead a little too long. Welcome to the medieval city, equal parts bustling, boiling, and barely breathable. The streets are a generous term. They're more like overflowing ditches with wood and brick wedged between them. You step carefully and still manage to slip on what you hope is cabbage. Everything smells like smoke, sweat, and old cheese. A dog barks from a rooftop. Don't ask, and you realize that privacy is more of a modern invention. Above you, laundry flaps from windows barely wider than your shoulders. The walls are tall, uneven, and pockmarked with mysterious stains. The architecture is hastily put together by someone with a fear of right angles. Everything leans. Your anxiety leans with it. And the noise. Oh, the noise. Horses clatter. Vendors shout. Bells ring at random, usually just to tell you something. Bad happened. You hear a faraway chant, either monks or very enthusiastic criminals. Historians still argue whether many of these soundscapes were everyday reality or dramatized in later literature, but most agree it was not quiet. Somewhere, a blacksmith is pounding out a blade, sending sparks into the air. A nun passes you, holding a child's hand. Someone else yells something that sounds like Latin, but is probably just angry gibberish. You turn the corner and walk straight into a cartload of turnips. The driver doesn't even apologize. He just tosses you a suspicious look and moves on. At this point, you're sweating. Not from the heat, though that's part of it, but from the overwhelming sensory overload. Every part of the city is alive, but not in a good way. It breathes like a lung full of dust. Your stomach growls. Bad news. Food safety regulations won't be invented for another several centuries, but we'll get to that. For now, you trudge forward, dodging donkeys and open cesspits, and try to find a place to stay. A wooden sign creaks above a doorway. The Silver Rat Inn. Cozy. You duck inside and are immediately engulfed by smoke, body heat, and the unmistakable scent of ale mixed with something metallic. A boy no older than 10 takes your coin and gestures to a ladder. Upstairs, your room awaits. It's more a crawl space than a suite, but you're too tired to care. You slump onto the wooden bed. No mattress, just straw, and yes, there are bugs. Many. Some wave at you. Still, you lie back. You listen. Somewhere outside, a musician plays a lute. Poorly. Two drunk men shout about taxes, and you think this isn't just history. This was someone's Tuesday. As you drift toward a half-sleep, your body still tense from dodging horse carts and street muck, you wonder, who thought this was progress? Yet somehow people lived here, raised families, fell in love, invented cheese, and maybe that's the strangest thing of all. You wake up stiff, not just from the straw poking into your back like judgmental pine needles, but because you barely slept. The walls creaked, the wind howled. Someone snored like a medieval dragon with seasonal allergies. But it's morning. Now or close enough, and you have to relieve yourself, which brings us to the streets. Again. You climb down the ladder and step outside, hoping to find something that even remotely resembles a bathroom. Spoiler, there isn't one. Unless you count literally anywhere, and most people did. You're walking carefully, maybe too carefully. That's when it happens. From an upper window, a woman casually dumps the contents of her chamber pot. It lands a few feet from you with a splash that's both horrifying and suspiciously warm. You freeze. She shouts something that sounds vaguely apologetic, or possibly sarcastic, and slams the shutters. You've just had your first near miss with the real medieval morning ritual. And no, this wasn't rare. In fact, cities like Paris and London eventually passed laws requiring people to shout "Gardez-vous" before dumping waste out the window. Historians still argue whether the shout was always used or just on polite days. Either way, you now understand why medieval people wore cloaks, mostly as splash guards. As you walk, eyes darting upward now, you realize the streets are alive, not metaphorically, literally. The gutters ooze a dark mixture of animal waste, rainwater, beer foam, and despair. Rats scurry past, completely unbothered by your presence. Some of them are so big you briefly consider asking one for directions. There are pigs wandering through the alleyways too, rooting around for scraps. Some are semi-domesticated. Others just live here now, unofficial citizens of the city. People didn't waste food, not because they were environmentally conscious, but because food was terrifyingly scarce. That pig probably eats better than you will today. The smell? Imagine rotten cabbage married to mildew and had children with sour ale. Then picture all of them having a picnic in your nostrils. That's the medieval street vibe. You try to breathe through your mouth, which helps, until it doesn't. You pass. What might be a butcher's shop, or maybe just a creative murder scene? There are fly-covered slabs of meat hanging from hooks, and a woman is yelling prices at passers-by like she's auctioning off body parts. A man next to her is selling fish that definitely isn't fresh, but it's fish. So, yay? Historians have found records showing that city markets were often the center of commerce and disease. Raw meat was sold beside wool, ink, live geese, and occasionally bootleg sermons. No refrigeration, no gloves, just flavor. You keep walking and spot something you didn't expect. A child drawing in the mud with a stick. His hands are filthy, but he looks focused, even proud. You pause. For 1 second, this place feels human, messy, chaotic, loud, but alive. Then a dog runs by with someone's shoe in its mouth, and the moment passes. The streets twist unpredictably. You try to orient yourself, but everything looks the same. Timbered houses, soot-stained walls, an overwhelming palette of brown. You're not lost exactly, just emotionally adrift. There's a communal well up ahead. Several women gather around it, hauling up buckets, gossiping, occasionally spitting into the street for emphasis. You overhear something about a merchant's daughter and a monk. It's all very scandalous. You make a mental note. Wells aware. The real drama lives. The ground beneath you squelches with every step, a constant reminder that indoor plumbing is still centuries away. You're starting to get used to it, in the way one might get used to a headache or a minor plague. Someone coughs nearby. You flinch. Not because of germs, germ theory won't be a thing for hundreds of years, but because the sound is wet. You move faster. By now your shoes, wait, did you even have shoes? Never mind, whatever's on your feet is soaked. You pass a beggar holding a wooden bowl. He doesn't speak. He just looks at you with the haunted eyes of someone who knows what the rats are up to and has made peace with it. And honestly, that might be the most relatable face you've seen all day. You stop at a bakery. The smell of bread, actual decent-smelling bread, drifts from the open doorway like a siren song. You lean in, hoping for a crumb, maybe a smile, but the baker just glares at you. Closed, he mutters, despite the fact that you can literally see the bread. Historians still debate whether medieval bakers were community staples or gatekeeping villains. You vote for the latter. You sigh, stepping back into the muck. Another splash, another mystery fluid. You don't even react this time. You've evolved. You stand there dazed. A monk walks past holding a skull. You don't ask, you don't want to know, because in this city, asking questions is just another way to get something gross dumped on your head. Word count 1.89. You're hungry. Not missed lunch hungry. More like if I don't eat soon, I might chew on this broom handle hungry. And now it's time to discover what a standard medieval breakfast actually looks like. Spoiler alert, It's not pancakes and coffee. You make your way to a nearby tavern. It's open to all sorts. Travelers, workers, a suspiciously quiet juggler. And the atmosphere is smoky, dim, and full of the kind of laughter that usually precedes a tavern brawl. You slide onto a bench, trying not to inhale too deeply. There's something burning, but it's not firewood. Probably cabbage or a witch. The meal arrives, a hunk of stale bread, a wedge of cheese that fights back when you poke it, and a raw onion. That's it. You stare at it like it might explain itself. It doesn't. This was actually a typical peasant's breakfast. Cheap, filling, and deeply uninspiring. The bread so dense you could use it to stop arrows. The cheese has a blue tinge that may or may not be intentional. You bite into the onion, it bites back, no utensils, of course. You eat with your hands, trying not to gag when something crunchy and unidentifiable sneaks into your bite. You glance around the room, hoping someone looks just as alarmed as you, but no, everyone else is tearing into their meals like this is fine. Normal. Delicious, even. A man beside you belches in Latin. You nod respectfully. Historians still argue whether peasants regularly ate 3 meals a day. Some records suggest 2, morning and evening, with snacks if you were lucky or stealing. Meat, a rare luxury. Eggs, questionable. Water, risky. You wash down your meal with ale, which is safer than drinking from the well. It's weak, cloudy and warm, but hey, hydration is hydration. Just as you finish your meal, a flea hops across your sleeve. You name it, Gregory. Gregory is your emotional support flea now. He's survived worse breakfasts. Outside the tavern, the street has woken up fully. Chickens dart under carts. A man in a robe shouts about sin. 2 dogs are having a very loud disagreement. And you? You've got to find work. Because nothing in the medieval city comes free except disease. That's everywhere. A local tanner agrees to take you on for the day. You regret it instantly. The tannery is a circle of horror. Open vats of urine used to soften hides, piles of bloody animal skins, and workers who look like they've made peace with never smelling nice again. Your job? Stir the hides with a stick in the pee, while holding your breath and questioning all your past decisions. Medieval tanning was essential, smelly, and dangerous. The ammonia from urine could cause burns and breathing problems. Historians still debate whether tanners were considered low status or simply tolerated due to the necessity of their trade. You decide the answer is very low, very smelly, and very unlucky. The sun climbs higher, turning the tannery into a steam room of nightmares. You're sweating, your clothes stick to your skin, and the flies have formed a fan club around you. A fellow worker hands you a scrap of dried meat. It's chewy, salty, and might be from a species that no longer exists, but you eat it anyway, because Gregory the flea is watching. Judging your break doesn't last long, a cart arrives with fresh hides. You gag. Not from the sight, but the smell. It's like old shoes dipped in despair and left under a sun lamp. You look over the city, while wondering what lies beyond. Maybe rolling hills, maybe freedom. But you also remember what's out there: bandits, wolves, no soap. This is your life now. A loud bell tolls noon. You assume it's noon. It might also mean someone died, or got married, or sneezed near the bishop. Bells ring for everything here, and no one really explains why. By now, you've aged emotionally. Your hands are stained, your hair smells like goat, and you haven't stopped itching since breakfast. Gregory seems fine, though. As the workday stumbles forward, someone mentions the city fair coming next week. Jousts, jugglers, and meat pies. A moment of joy. Perhaps, if you survive long enough. You finally finish your shift and stumble out of the tannery into the late afternoon sun, which feels like a cruel joke. You're drenched in sweat, grime, and something you don't want to think about. On the way back to the tavern, you pass a woman scrubbing clothes in a basin with lye soap, so caustic it's practically medieval acid. She nods to you as if to say, "Welcome to the club." Back in your wooden box of a room, you peel off your tunic and lie on the straw, defeated. Gregory hops down beside you. You both need a nap. You stare at the wooden ceiling, which is home to more spiders than it should be, and think about the day. You survived a medieval breakfast, got mildly poisoned by cheese, nearly passed out at a tannery, and may have adopted a sentient insect, and that's just morning. Afternoon in a medieval city doesn't slow down. It only gets louder. You wake up groggily, still wrapped in your sweat-soaked tunic, Gregory the Flea nestled somewhere in your elbow crease, living his best life. There's shouting outside. Again, you descend the tavern stairs hoping for something resembling lunch. Instead, you're greeted by the barkeep, sweeping what appears to be mud bones and a spoon out the door in one efficient motion. He offers you a bowl of something beige. You take one sniff and politely decline. Gregory looks offended on your behalf. So you head out again, this time in search of something a little more edible. You wander toward the market square, which is bursting with activity and smells you wish didn't exist. A juggler tosses flaming sticks into the air, while a nearby monk yells about sin. No one seems to mind either of them. Kids chase chickens. A woman scolds a goose. It's a normal day. This is where the real action happens, the town market. It's chaotic, loud, and dangerously entertaining. Think of it as the medieval version of a shopping mall, a political rally and a crime scene all rolled into one. You duck between stalls selling wooden spoons, hand-woven wool, dried herbs, and things that are probably edible. There's a basket of something that might be fruit, or possibly organs, you don't ask. At one booth, a man sells miracle water from a rusted jug. He's shouting its virtues, curing baldness, banishing demons, improving digestion. You're tempted, but then you see a man nearby sneezing blood and think better of it. Historians still argue whether such cure-all potions were genuine beliefs or full-blown scams, but either way, they sold. A lot. You hear laughter, not joyful laughter, mocking, chaotic laughter. You turn to see a man in stocks. His crime? Stealing a pie. The crowd finds it hilarious. Kids throw cabbage leaves at him. One woman offers him more pie, then takes it. Back public punishment was theatre. It kept people entertained and compliant. Stocks, pillories, even tongue-piercing for gossip. Nothing was off the table. And the community? Oh, they showed up. Think of it as medieval Netflix, but smellier. You pass by another stall, this one with bright fabrics, blue, red, gold. A young woman is bartering fiercely. She wins, pays with 3 eggs and a loaf of bread, and struts away like royalty. You admire her. She probably knows where the good food is, but you? You settle for a dried fig and some suspicious cheese from a man who looks like he's never blinked. You sit on a barrel to eat and people watch. A nobleman rides by on a horse so clean it must have come from another dimension. His cloak drags on the ground. He doesn't care. A beggar bows deeply as he passes. The noble tosses a coin. It lands in the mud. The beggar scrambles. You look around and realize something important. There's no middle class here. You're either rich and clean or poor and constantly sticky. The idea of upward mobility? Hilarious. Medieval people were mostly born into their lot and trying to rise above it, often meant becoming clergy or dead. Suddenly there's a commotion. A pickpocket has been caught. A young boy, maybe 12, is being dragged toward the stocks. People gather. Some boo, others cheer. It's brutal. You want to intervene, but you also want to avoid getting roped into something with torches and pitchforks. So you stay silent. You wander deeper into the square, past a puppet show reenacting the death of a king. The puppets are strangely detailed. One has a removable head. Children laugh. You shudder. There's a man shouting about relics. Splinters from the true cross, a saint's finger, possibly a unicorn tooth. You ask to see the tooth. It's large, yellow, and suspiciously wooden. He doesn't blink, as he claims it still grants wishes. You nod, back away slowly. Historians love debating relics. Some were sacred, others were totally fake. One church claimed to have multiple skulls of John the Baptist as a child. You do the math. You pass a fortune teller. She grabs your hand and whispers, "You will leave this city with more fleas than friends." You nod. That already feels true. Eventually, the bells ring again. You jump. The crowd barely reacts. Time, it seems, is measured in bells, seasons, and how many teeth you have left. You try to leave the square, but it's harder than expected. You're pushed, pulled, turned around, and momentarily trapped behind a cartload of turnips. Again, always the turnips. Finally, you duck into a side alley to escape the noise. It's quieter here. The buildings lean in as if whispering secrets to each other. You lean against a wall, exhale, and realize you've stepped in something wet. You don't look down. You don't want to know. A cat watches you from a windowsill, judging your every move. You nod to it. It blinks. You have a friend now. The market continues in the distance, laughing, shouting, bartering, buzzing. You feel it behind you like a living thing. The city is relentless, hungry, and somehow still. Charming. You scratch your arm absently. Gregory is still with you, loyal, unbothered, thriving. The afternoon is waning, but the noise of the city refuses to settle. The bells toll again, what for, who knows? A merchant wedding, a plague cart, a goat that achieved sainthood, all equally plausible in this place. You glance toward the cathedral, its spire reaching for heaven as if to apologize for everything happening below. Your feet ache, your stomach growls again, but you ignore it. For now, you have a new goal: survival until nightfall without catching a disease, starting a fight, or stepping in anything sentient, which is when you make a rookie mistake. You get a splinter, not a dramatic one, just a tiny jab from the splintered edge of a barrel. You wince, curse softly, and then remember what century you're in. Minor injuries aren't minor here. Still, you try to walk it off, but by the time you limp past the local apothecary's shop, a crooked door under a sign with a barely legible mortar and pestle, your toe is throbbing. So you step inside. The smell hits first: dried herbs, vinegar, and something you describe as burnt squirrel. A man behind the counter greets you with a toothless grin and eyes that suggest he's seen things. Terrible, oozing things. You show him your finger. He nods solemnly and offers two options: a poultice made from moss and honey, or, you guessed it, a leech. Leeches were the universal go-to for centuries. Bloodletting was believed to balance the body's humors: blood, phlegm, black bile, and yellow bile. Historians still argue whether it helped at all, or just gave people one more thing to be anxious about. You go with the moss. He slaps it on with the delicacy of someone hammering a tent stake. You thank him with the few coins you have left. Gregory disapproves. You exit the shop slightly woozy and incredibly sticky. As you stagger back into the street, you wonder what would happen if you'd chosen the leech. Would it have a name? Would it become your backup support animal? No time to reflect. A loud clang startles you. People are shouting again, but this time there's a buzz of excitement in the air. You follow the sound until you arrive at a wooden platform in the square. An execution. The whole city has turned up like it's a public holiday. Vendors sell wine and meat pies. Children sit on their parents' shoulders. One guy is juggling. Knives nearby, really leaning into the festive mood. You feel nauseated. The condemned man is tied to a post, eyes wide but resigned. His crime? Stealing a loaf of bread during a famine, or maybe insulting the mayor's mustache. The details are fuzzy. The punishment is not. The executioner appears dramatically in a black hood and apron stained with, well, you don't want to think about it. The crowd cheers like he's a rock star, and honestly, in a way, he is. Executions in the medieval city were public for a reason. They served as both punishment and deterrent. But also, and let's be honest, people came for the spectacle. Historians still debate how enthusiastic the average citizen was about these events, but based on the atmosphere today, you'd say very. You inch away. You don't need this in your dreams tonight. As you slip through the crowd, you catch snippets of conversation. Someone blames the baker's wife for bad luck in the harvest. Another swears their neighbor is in league with the devil because she owns 3 cats and reads. The paranoia bubbles under the surface of daily life. You're beginning to notice something. Fear is currency here. Fear of illness, fear of sin, fear of witches, fear of wolves. It drives decisions. It fills the churches. It fuels gossip. It's exhausting. You pass a group of children playing plague doctor. One wears a crude bird mask made of leather, poking at a doll with a stick. You're equal parts amused and horrified. They laugh and shout, completely unaware that this very game might become their reality in a few years. You glance up. The sun is lower now, casting long shadows over the city. The warmth is fading. The light feels thinner. You wrap your cloak tighter. The city is changing again. It's time to head back to the inn. You need rest, maybe dinner, probably tetanus treatment. But before you do, you detour through the churchyard. It's quiet, peaceful in that morbid way. A few people kneel before candles, murmuring prayers. A priest hums a hymn. You light a candle. Not for anyone in particular, just for the modern world you now miss more than ever. Indoor plumbing, refrigeration, the absence of leeches in your medical decisions. You exhale, letting the moment settle around you like dust. For the first time today, the city is silent, almost reverent. Then a goat bursts through the bushes and steals someone's prayer scroll. And the moment is over. Back at the inn, the barkeep offers you stew. It's more stew-adjacent than actual stew, mostly boiled root vegetables and something with too many legs. You pass. Gregory is already nibbling it. You trudge upstairs, the wooden steps groaning beneath your weight. Your straw bed welcomes you like an itchy, flea-ridden embrace. You lie down, your body aching, your stomach growling, and your soul just a little more humble. Because today, you survived a trip to the doctor in a medieval city, and that's saying something. Nightfall in a medieval city doesn't bring peace. It brings shadows. The sun dips below the crooked rooftops, casting long, uneasy silhouettes across cobbled lanes and soot-streaked walls. You sit upright in your scratchy little nest of straw, listening. Silence isn't silent here. It's full of creaks, low murmurs, a dog barking 3 alleys over, and the occasional drunken shout that echoes like a ghost looking for its pants. You light a tallow candle and immediately regret it. The smell is something between wet sheep and despair, but it's that or darkness, and you've seen what darkness looks like in this place. Downstairs, the tavern is still lively. Someone singing off-key about a miller's daughter and a misplaced goat. Laughter erupts, then crashes into sudden silence. A mug smashes. Business as usual. You decide to stay in your room. It feels safer, which is generous considering the ceiling just coughed dust into your face. Still, you try to relax. You lean against the wooden wall, eyes adjusting to the flickering candlelight. Outside, footsteps echo, heavy boots, then a pause, then nothing. You hold your breath. Then a cat yowls and you exhale. Night in the city isn't a lull, it's a shift, a transformation. By day, the city is a chaotic, noisy mess. But at night, it's something older, stranger. You decide to step out just for a moment. Curiosity is a stronger force than common sense, especially in history. Gregory rides on your shoulder, the bravest flea in Christendom. You slip into the street, the candle extinguished behind you. The cold bites harder now. Your breath clouds the air as you walk cautiously past shuttered shops and barred doors. This part of town has curled inward. The main square looks different now, fewer people, more shadows. You hear whispers, low, careful ones. A man in a hooded cloak leans against a wall, watching something, or someone. You can't see. You don't ask. In a medieval city, some answers come with pitchforks. You turn toward the alley that leads back toward the church. But it's not empty. A woman stands there alone in a dark dress. She doesn't move, she doesn't speak. Her face is half hidden in shadow. You freeze. She lifts her hand slowly and points, not at you, but toward the cemetery behind the chapel. Then without a sound, she vanishes into the dark. You blink. Was that real? Sleep deprivation? Ghost? A nun with a flair for drama? Historians still argue whether belief in spirits was spiritual, psychological, or just another form of crowd control. But tonight you believe a little bit. You do not follow her. You head in the opposite direction. Good instincts. Still, the air feels different now, denser, more watchful. You pass a shuttered window and catch movement, a candle being quickly extinguished. Were they watching you, or just the ghosts? Suddenly, a shout pierces the air. A man runs past, clutching a sack. Behind him, a night watchman chases with a club and a lantern that barely holds a flame. The lantern sways, casting wild shapes on the wall. You press against a doorway, heart thudding. Crime doesn't sleep. It prowls. Theft, drunken brawls, arson. These are the nightly events that fill the city's bones. Night watchmen patrol with clubs, not out of heroism, but because if they didn't, the city would simply consume itself. You head back toward the inn, carefully, Deliberately, trying not to make noise, you step over what might be a sleeping man, or just a very artistic pile of rags you don't check. Back at the Silver Rat Inn, the noise inside has subsided to a low, sleepy grumble. You creep upstairs and collapse on the straw with a soft oof. The room still smells like boiled onion and candle wax, comforting in a weird way. You pull your cloak tighter and stare at the ceiling. There's a hole now. Was it there before? Unclear. Through it you glimpse the stars, soft flickering lights above the madness. It's beautiful, unexpectedly peaceful. And then you hear it. A scream. Far off, high-pitched, maybe from the next street over. Then silence again. That kind of silence that sits on your chest. You don't move, you just lie there, eyes open, counting heartbeats. Eventually the noise below fades, your breathing slows, your eyelids grow heavy. Even Gregory seems to be asleep, because eventually, even the horror film of medieval life has a quiet act. But never forget, it's only intermission. Morning arrives not with sunlight but with bells. Loud, insistent, dramatic bells. You jolt upright as if summoned to trial. Your back aches, your neck is stiff, and Gregory is nowhere to be found, probably off protesting bread taxes. The tavern. Below is quiet, but outside the city is stirring again. You can hear it. The rumble of carts, the neigh of horses, the hiss of frying fat, and someone already yelling about eels. You stretch, stand, and immediately regret everything. Your plan. For today, avoid death, maybe learn something. Hopefully eat food that hasn't been cursed. You make your way outside, blinking against the morning light. The air smells marginally less offensive, but that's probably just wind direction. The streets are damp from a light drizzle, and the puddles reflect the warped geometry of rooftops and chimneys that lean like they've had one too many flagons of mead. You decide to take a walk along the river. There's a faint hope it might be cleaner out there. It's not. The river is thick and sluggish, a grey-green soup that steams ominously in the morning chill. A dead fish bobs past, or maybe a very relaxed eel. Either way it winks at you. The banks are lined with fishermen, washerwomen, and people who seem to just be standing there yelling at the water. One man tosses a coin into the current and whispers something. You don't ask. You're still recovering. From Ghost Lady in the alley gate, rivers were the arteries of medieval cities, vital for trade, waste removal, washing clothes and dumping bodies, sometimes all at once. Historians still argue whether the average citizen understood how contaminated their water sources really were. Judging by the man gargling river water near you, probably not. Moving away, you pass a group of men working on a timber structure. It's either a house or a very ambitious fire hazard. One of them is shouting about angles, while another uses his boot as a measuring tool. You smile. Some things never change. As you continue, you stumble upon something unexpected. A group of children in a muddy square, playing a game with sticks and a pig's bladder. They shout, laugh, and tackle each other into the muck with abandon. You stop to watch. This, somehow, is the most joyful thing you've seen all day. Possibly all week. The bladder ball bounces in your direction. A small girl with wild hair and a toothy grin shouts, "Kick it." So you do. Badly. It veers off course, hits a bucket, and scares a chicken into flight. The children erupt in laughter. You bow dramatically. They invite you to play, but you decline with a smile. Your bones can't handle mud-based trauma today, as you step away. A hand taps your shoulder. It's an old man with a long beard offering you a warm drink from a carved gourd. You hesitate, but the aroma is earthy, spicy, almost comforting. You sip. It's strange, but not terrible. He nods. "Wormwood and juniper," he mutters. "Good for memory, bad for enemies." You have no idea what that means, but you thank him anyway. Moments like this remind you, for all the fleas, muck, and near-death experiences, medieval people lived. Fully, messily, beautifully. You make your way toward a stone bridge that arches over the river. From the top you can see the city unfold. Tangled streets, thatched roofs, smoke drifting lazily into the sky. It's chaotic, crooked, and loud, but it has a rhythm. You watch a barge drift beneath the bridge loaded with barrels. A boy leans over the side, waving at passers-by. You wave back. He grins, then disappears around the bend. You stay a moment, longer, watching the water. A priest walks past, murmuring prayers. A woman balances a basket on her head like a queen. Two men argue over how many eggs equals a chicken. Life continues. Eventually you descend from the bridge, returning to the city's veins. You hear rumors. More plague in the next town over. A merchant caravan robbed 2 roads east. Someone saw a comet. Definitely a sign. Of what? Unclear. Probably doom. Fear trickles into the conversation like smoke. The town crier shouts warnings, and the people listen with wide eyes. You feel the weight of it again. This world balance is constantly on the edge of panic. You decide to visit the town hall, or what passes for one. A timber building with faded banners and a door that moans louder than your knees. Inside, officials argue over weights and measures, taxes, and whether someone's cow technically qualifies as a weapon. This is the heart of city bureaucracy. And it's as confusing then as it is now. You slip out before anyone can conscript you to solve goat disputes. The sun climbs higher. The city breathes. You walk through it, not as a visitor anymore, but as someone beginning to understand the strange logic of its pulse, and maybe, just maybe, you're starting to appreciate it until someone dumps another chamber pot, and the dream shatters. You don't flinch this time. The chamber pot lands with a satisfying splork near your boot, and you just sidestep it like a seasoned local. Growth or desensitization. Either way, you're adapting. Midday arrives like a yawn, slow, dusty, and full of strange sounds. You wander past the baker again. Today he's got pies, real pies. You stare longingly through the open window. He stares back with the intensity of a man who knows his pastries are powerful. You buy one despite the price. It's okay. The crust is thick enough to stop a sword, and the filling might be pigeon or optimism, but it's warm. It's yours. And it hasn't crawled away yet. Victory. You eat it while walking through the artisan's district. Here the air smells less like sewage and more like singed wool, sawdust, and metal. Smith's hammer iron, Cooper's shape barrels, and a man carves intricate patterns into a wooden spoon like it's a royal relic. Craftsmanship is everywhere. Even in a world of mud and rats, beauty insists on existing. Historians note that many medieval artisans pass their skills down through generations, each one adding a twist. You pass a weaver's shop where dyed cloth flutters like flags. One pattern looks vaguely like Gregory. You nod approvingly. Further down you stumble upon a scribe's stall. Ink bottles, quills, scrolls. The scribe himself looks bored, ink-stained, and extremely underpaid. You ask what he's writing. He gestures to a pile of accounts, which turn out to be 3 pages of very creative spelling and highly suspicious math. He offers to write your name in Latin for a fee. You agree. He spells it wrong but flourishes the final letter like a boss. It's the thought that counts. You tuck the scroll away as a souvenir, something to remind you of the day you became a footnote in a ledger no one will ever read. Now you're tired again and your feet are sore. So naturally it's time to visit the local public bathhouse. The medieval bathhouse is not exactly a spa. It's steamy, noisy, and smells like soap, smoke, and sweat, all battling for dominance. You pay your fee to a gruff woman who doesn't speak but judges silently. Inside there are several tubs. Some are shared, others are private. You choose a semi-private one, a wooden barrel just large enough for you and your existential dread. The water's warm, shockingly pleasant, in fact. For the first time in days you feel clean adjacent. You scrub your arms with something labeled soap, though its origin is questionable and its scent is aggressively herbal. Other bathers chat nearby. One discusses a neighbor's missing cow. Another gossips about a blacksmith who forged 2 horseshoes and a scandal in 1 week. The bathhouse is more than hygiene. It's a social hub, a therapy session, a newsstand. Historians still debate how widespread bathhouses really were. Some cities banned them periodically due to moral decay. Others embraced them as essential. Either way, you're grateful for this moment of heat and quiet. You lean back, eyes closed. For a second, you imagine you're back home. Modern. Plumbing, clean towels. No fear of rats falling in from the rafters. You sigh. Then someone sneezes into the water, A long, wet, world-ending sneeze. Your eyes snap open. The moment is gone. You towel off with something that was probably a curtain in a past life, dress and exit before any more biological weapons are deployed. Outside, the light is golden now, late afternoon. The city begins to shift again. Merchants pack their wares. Children are called home. Chickens get suspiciously quiet. The air feels heavy, as if preparing for something. You pass a group of pilgrims singing hymns. Their voices rise above the noise, soft, melodic, almost haunting. One offers you a piece of bread. You take it, it's stale but warm. They smile and continue walking. Faith is everywhere here. Shrines in doorways, crosses carved into beams, superstition woven into every action. You hear a woman whisper a blessing over her broom before sweeping. Another knots a red thread around her wrist, against the evil eye. This city doesn't. Separate life from belief. Every scraped knee, every birth, every sneeze has cosmic meaning. You arrive at the cathedral again. Evening services are beginning. Candles flicker, bells toll. You don't go in, but you stand at the threshold. Inside, voices echo, chanting Latin, calling for mercy, for rain, for protection from rats and royal decrees. The stained glass windows catch the fading sun, painting the stone in reds and blues. You feel small, not in a bad way, in a cosmic way. Like standing in a place where time folds over itself, where thousands have stood just like you wondering what comes next. And then someone steps on your foot. Hard. You yelp. The moment evaporates. Back to reality. You limp away from the cathedral, clutching your half-eaten bread, wondering if your foot is broken or just mad. Gregory returns, hopping onto your sleeve like he never left. Together you head back to the inn, past the fishmonger still yelling, past the puppeteer now performing a comedic beheading, past the man trying to sell a rock as a healing talisman. You smile despite yourself, because somehow in all its filth and madness, this city is starting to feel familiar, like a fever dream you don't mind staying in just a little longer. You're almost used to it now, the rhythm of the city, the noise, the smells, the way time feels both endless and immediate. Evening settles over the rooftops like a well-worn cloak, stitched together with wood smoke, candlelight and weary sighs. Back at the Silver Rat Inn, the common room is lively again. A lute player strums something vaguely tuneful. A group of laborers argue about whether a chicken can legally be married to a duck. You don't ask. You sit by the hearth, warming your hands. A bowl of stew appears, less offensive tonight, more potato than gristle. Gregory inspects it and deems it safe. You eat. A man beside you starts talking, no introduction, just starts. He's a cooper, makes barrels, has strong opinions about wood, and thinks taxes are an invention of demons. You nod, say, a lot, and eventually he falls asleep. Mid-sentence, his head hits the table with a thunk that shakes your spoon. You take that as your cue to leave. Outside, the streets are quieter than usual. Fewer drunks, fewer arguments. A calm has settled over the city, but not a peaceful one, a waiting kind of calm. You pull your cloak tighter and walk toward the edge of town. This part of the city is rougher. Fewer lanterns, more shadows. The houses look tired, so do the people. A woman with soot on her cheeks sits on a stoop, rocking a baby wrapped in old wool. You nod. She nods back. No words. You hear music, faint, off-key, coming from a side alley. Against your better judgment, you follow it. It leads to a courtyard where a group of people are dancing, slowly, clumsily, joyfully. No fancy steps, no structured rhythm, just movement and laughter. Someone plays a drum, a dog howls along. You don't join in, but you watch. For a moment it feels like time forgets itself. Historians still debate how often medieval towns broke into spontaneous celebrations. Some say frequently, others believe most dancing was tied to festivals and religious events. But this feels genuine, a release, a way to say, we're still here. Eventually the music fades and people drift away. You slip back into the winding streets. A rat runs across your path and you don't even blink. You've become one of them. Not a rat, a city person, someone who knows which gutters are ankle-deep and which tavern doors to knock on twice. You pause at a fountain. A woman stands nearby whispering a prayer to a stone saint. She drops a coin into the water and walks away. You look down. The water ripples gently, reflecting the stars above. You toss in your own coin, not for luck, but as a kind of offering. To the city, to its chaos, to its strange, grimy charm. Then, shouting, loud, urgent, and unmistakably panicked, you rush toward it, along with half the street. When you arrive, the source is clear. Fire. A thatched roof across the square has caught flame. The light flickers wildly, casting enormous shadows. People scream. Buckets are passed. Dogs bark. Someone faints dramatically. And yet, no fire brigade, no hoses. Just neighbors tossing water, beating the flames with cloaks, yelling advice no one follows. The fire dances upward, crackling like it enjoys the attention. Smoke stings your eyes. Ash drifts like black snow. You cough, stumble back, and watch the chaos unfold. Eventually, the fire dies. Or rather, it runs out of things to eat. The building is gone. Charred beams point skyward like broken ribs. People stand around, stunned, smoky, exhausted. No one died, this time. But the lesson lingers in the air. Fire is feared here. It spreads. Fast, it devours whole neighborhoods. And there's no insurance, no fire alarms, no one to call except your neighbor with a half-full bucket and optimism. You walk away, shaken. The city never lets you forget how fragile everything is. On your way back, you pass the bakery. The window is blackened with soot. The baker stands in the doorway, watching the stars. He sees you, nods once. You nod back. A silent exchange. We made it through the night. Back in your room, you collapse onto your straw bed. You're too tired to itch. The candle guttered hours ago. Gregory curls up on your collar. The city sleeps. For now. And so do you. You wake before the sun, not by choice. Someone outside is singing, loudly and off-key. It might be a rooster, or a person pretending to be one. Either way, sleep has fled, and you're once again a reluctant participant in medieval life. You stretch. Straw pokes your ribs. Your tunic smells like smoke, sweat, and something faintly medicinal, probably from the bathhouse soap, which you're beginning to suspect was just crushed leaves and good intentions. Gregory is gone again, presumably out networking. Downstairs, the innkeeper nods at you. You nod back. He gives you a cup of something warm and bitter. It's barley broth, or possibly regret steeped in water. Still, it helps shake off the fog. In your brain. Today, you decide you'll explore the outer districts, where the city thins and the countryside begins to reclaim the edges. You step into the morning light, boots squelching in the damp earth, and begin your slow march toward the periphery. As you walk, the cobbled roads give way to packed dirt. The buildings grow smaller, less clustered. Thatched roofs lean toward the horizon like they're whispering secrets to the fields. You pass workers carrying baskets of dung and compost, trudging toward the gardens beyond the walls. Vegetable plots dot the outskirts, patches of green in an otherwise grey world. A boy waves to you from behind a row of cabbage. You wave back. He sticks his tongue out. Charming. It's quieter here. Fewer carts. More birds. You hear the faint hum of bees and the rhythmic thud of a hammer from a distant forge. A breeze carries the smell of herbs and livestock. Not ideal, but better than Chamberpot City. Then you see them. The city walls. Thick, ancient, cracked but proud. They don't just mark the edge of town, they're a statement. Here be, ask there be wolves. Medieval cities were often fortified not just for show but for survival. Bandits, raiders, rival lords, danger came in all shapes. And these walls. These were the last defense. You approach a gate. It's open, guarded by two men who look half asleep. You nod politely. They grunt. One is eating an onion like it's an apple. You walk past. Outside the gate, the world shifts. The sounds are different. The smells, too. There's space here, air, sky. You take a deep breath and promptly gag. Manure. So much manure, you've entered the pasture zone, where the city dumps what it doesn't want and the farmers collect what they do. Cows munch lazily. Chickens strut with undeserved confidence. A pig roots near a puddle, snorting with satisfaction. A woman in a faded cloak nods as you pass. She's tending goats. One of them stares at you like it knows what you did last summer. You hurry on. Further out, the path forks. One road leads into woods, the other toward a small chapel and graveyard. You choose the graveyard, not for any dramatic reason, just curiosity. It's quiet, peaceful even. Stone markers lean at odd angles. Some have carvings, others are simple, just names and years. You run your fingers over one: Alice, wife, baker, brave. You wonder what she was brave for. Maybe just living. Historians often note how intertwined death and daily life were. Cemeteries were not hidden away. They were part of the city's heartbeat. People walked past them daily, children played beside them. Lives and losses shared the same space. You sit on a mossy bench and rest. The city's buzz feels far away. Here there's only birdsong and the distant clang of a bell. Eventually you rise. You retrace your steps toward the gate, where the guards are now both asleep. One has onion on his chin. You slip past. Back in the city, everything feels louder, closer, tighter. You pass a woman stirring a cauldron of what smells like stew and ambition. She offers a ladleful. You accept. It's salty, vaguely fishy, and has a surprising crunch. You nod in thanks and keep walking. Then the wind shifts. A ripple of tension moves through the street. People whisper. Faces tighten. Doors close. Children are pulled indoors. You ask a man what's happening. Someone's ill, he says. Up near the mill. You feel it. The fear. Immediate. Heavy. Sickness isn't just inconvenient here. It's catastrophic. The memory of plague lingers like smoke. Rumors spread faster than symptoms. You don't go toward the mill. Neither does anyone else. Instead, you watch the city react. Priests gather, herbs are burned, cats are eyed suspiciously. A man ties garlic to his door. Another mutters prayers into his wine. Historians still debate the efficacy of medieval health rituals, smoke, charms, leeches, but they agree on one thing. People tried. Desperately. Desperation was its own kind of medicine. As evening nears, the city seems to hold its breath, and you realize something. For all its chaos, for all its filth and fleas and fire risks, this city cares. In its way, people help, watch, warn. It's messy, but it's human. You make your way back to the inn. The sky blushes orange, candles flicker in windows. Someone plays a soft tune on a flute. It's off-key, but earnest. You sit by the fire, stew in hand, feet sore, and you think, you've walked its streets, smelled its worst, witnessed its fears, and yet you don't hate it because somehow this horror film of a city, mud-streaked, ghost-rumored, onion-scented, is alive. And maybe in a strange way, so are you. The next morning arrives with less fanfare. No bells, no shouting. Just a gentle knock at your door, 3 slow taps, then silence. You sit up, half dreaming, expecting Gregory with breakfast or a ghost with a lesson. Instead, it's the innkeeper. Market. Day, he mutters, then disappears. Right. Market day. Again. You rise, joints cracking like a wooden marionette. You've officially been here long enough to have favorite puddles and personal vendettas against specific chickens. You step outside, and the city greets you with a burst of color and chaos. Stalls line the main street like a parade of hopeful capitalism. Fruits, some only mildly bruised, bolts of cloth, spices, pewter trinkets, dubious potions, and live ducks, all yelling to be noticed. You thread your way through the crowd. It's thicker than usual. Everyone's here. Peasants with baskets, merchants with coin pouches, nuns with stern looks, and children playing tag around a man selling onions. You spot the pie thief from earlier, now offering completely legal pastries. You're about to sample one when a trumpet blares from the city square. A herald, resplendent in faded purple and carrying a scroll as long as a fishing rod, steps up on a wooden platform. The crowd hushes. Hear ye, he begins, then clears his throat. Twice, dramatically. He reads a list of new rules, fines for spitting in wells, new grain tariffs, something about illegal cheese trading. The Crowd reacts with groans, murmurs, and one man yelling, "That's it, I'm moving to Bruges." You chuckle. Then remember you don't know where Bruges is. Still, it sounds nice. After the announcements, things resume. You wander toward the edge of the square and find a performance underway. A troupe of actors is reenacting a local legend. A knight who challenged a ghost to a riddle contest. The costumes are terrible, the accents worse. But the children watching are captivated. You sit, resting your feet, letting the voices wash over you. The story ends with the knight losing and turning into a goose. No one questions it. You applaud. Next, you visit a nearby scribe's booth. He's now selling love letters, pre-written but emotionally flexible. You browse, mildly horrified, mildly impressed. You buy one just for the seal, an adorable wax goose. You stroll past the fabric stalls again. A young woman calls you over, trying to sell you bright blue hose. "Make your legs divine," she promises. You politely decline. Your legs are not ready for divinity. Soon you arrive at the livestock section. Here, the smell intensifies and the sounds multiply, mooing, bleating, grunting, and one pig that seems to be negotiating with its owner. A boy tries to ride a sheep. He fails. In a corner, a traveling merchant displays strange items from far-off lands. A mirror from Italy, a spice from the East, a curved dagger, and a small black cube he claims contains a trapped whisper. You ask to hear it. He shakes the cube. Nothing happens. "Still trapped," he says solemnly. You buy it. Why? Because it's absurd, and somehow perfectly fitting for this place. As you leave the market, you pass a crowd gathered around a storyteller. He's older, missing several teeth, and spinning a tale about a talking dog who became a mayor. People listen, rapt. A chicken rests on his foot like it's also invested. Historians often describe medieval markets as the lifeblood of the city. Commerce, entertainment, gossip, justice, and spirituality, all in one chaotic plaza. And here it is, alive around you, overwhelming, inescapable, and kind of beautiful. You return to the inn with a satchel of oddities, a whisper cube, a goose-sealed love letter, a slightly dented apple, and a head full of noise. That evening, you sit by the hearth again. This time the inn is quiet, fewer guests, fewer arguments, just the soft crackle of firewood and a woman humming a lullaby upstairs. You reach into your bag and pull out the cube. Hold it to your ear. Nothing, but maybe that's the point. You lie back on your straw bed. The wood creaks, the wind rattles the shutters, and for the first time, you don't mind the noise, because this is life here. Strange, loud, full of dirt and dreams. And you? You've lived it. Even Gregory, now curled at the edge of your sleeve like a tiny judgmental guardian, seems at peace. You drift off as the moon rises, casting silver over a city that never quite sleeps, but always dreams. Today begins with fog, thick, woolly, damp fog that wraps around the city like a wet blanket someone left in a well. You peer out the window and can barely see the rooftops across the street. The city feels muffled, like it's holding its breath. It's unsettling and oddly comforting. You descend the stairs into a tavern that feels emptier than usual. The fire crackles lazily. A few regulars sit slouched at tables, sipping broth and avoiding eye contact. Even the innkeeper just grunts in greeting. You eat a small breakfast, stale bread and something pretending to be cheese, and step out into the fog. It swallows you instantly. You walk slowly, careful not to bump into carts, pigs, or people. Shapes appear and vanish like ghosts. The city, usually so loud and unruly, now feels like a memory whispered from the bottom of a well. You drift through the mist like a sleepwalker. At one point you nearly collide with a man carrying a crossbow. He doesn't stop. He just mutters, "Bad omen weather," and disappears into the haze. It's market day again, but the square is quiet. The stalls are half assembled. The shouting is muted. Even the geese seem contemplative. You sit on the edge of a well and watch fog swirl over the cobblestones. Someone nearby plays a pipe, slow melancholy notes that seem to rise and dissolve into the air like smoke. You close your eyes and just listen. This city for once isn't demanding anything of you. You think about the lives lived here, the thousands of people who've trudged these streets, carrying burdens, dreams, diseases. You wonder what they feared most. fire, famine, or the slow rot of never escaping their own walls. Historians still debate what scared medieval people more, physical danger or divine punishment. The truth is probably both, and also neither. Maybe it was just being forgotten. You open your eyes, the fog remains, but it's starting to thin at the edges. You head toward the cathedral, its towering spire faintly visible through the haze. Inside, the air is cool and dry. Candles flicker, casting amber light on stone walls and silent saints. You sit in a pew at the back. A monk sweeps the floor with deliberate care. A woman kneels, whispering a prayer. A dog lies curled beneath a stained glass window, dozing. The light shifts. Colors spill through the glass, red, blue, gold, dancing across your hands, your clothes, the old wooden bench beneath you. It feels sacred. Even if you're not sure to what, you don't stay long. Holiness here feels like something you borrow, not something you own. Outside, the fog is lifting. The city re-emerges, slowly, stubbornly. You can see the square again. Hear distant hammering, smell baking bread. You walk toward the edge of town, past the same gates, the same guards. One of them nods. He's still eating onions. Some traditions never change. This time you veer left at the fork into the woods. They're not far. A short walk past the last chicken coop and you're under the canopy. Tall trees, tangled roots, the smell of damp earth and old leaves. It's quiet here. A different kind of quiet. Not fear, not waiting, just stillness. You follow a narrow path. It winds like a lazy river, taking you deeper. The sounds of the city fade completely. Eventually, you find a clearing. In the middle stands a single stone, a weathered marker, lichen-covered and nearly unreadable. A shrine of sorts, someone's memory, or maybe just a boundary. You sit beside it. The moss is cool beneath your hands. A squirrel watches you from a branch. You nod. It scurries off. You stay for a long time, breathing, thinking, remembering. Every absurd, terrible, wonderful thing this city has shown you. When you finally rise, you leave a coin on the stone. Not for payment, not for luck, just because. You return to the city at twilight. The streets glow amber. The windows flicker. A child laughs. A dog barks. Somewhere someone's burning something questionable for dinner. Everything is as it was. And a little different. You pass a woman singing as she scrubs her doorstep, a man whittling a spoon, a boy chasing a goose who clearly doesn't want to be chased. You're part of it now, not fully, but enough. Back in your room, you collapse onto your straw bed, shoes still on, cloak still wrapped around you like a tired hug. Gregory reappears. He perches on your thumb for a moment, then hops off in search of better real estate. You stare. At the ceiling, the hole above you frames a star, just one, it's enough. Another sunrise, this one softer, gentler, like the city is learning to yawn instead of shout. You wake slowly, stretching beneath your cloak, straw stuck to your cheek, your limbs aching in that deeply satisfying, I lived another day kind of way. The air smells like damp stone, candle wax, and oddly enough apples. That's new. Downstairs the innkeeper is humming. He doesn't hum. This is suspicious. You eye the broth he offers and sip cautiously. It's decent. Alarmingly decent. Something's definitely going to go wrong today. You step outside into golden morning light, and the world feels tender. Birds chirp. A woman sings a lullaby while hanging linens. A man kisses his goat on the forehead like it's the Pope. No one's arguing yet. You decide to walk the city's perimeter, trace its edges, feel its shape. The city wall looms beside you, thick, high weathered by time and pigeons. You pass watchtowers crumbling in places, patched with wood and hope. Archers used to stand here defending the gates. Now, just moss and the occasional loaf of forgotten bread. A cat slinks along the walls, edge tail flicking. You follow it. Because what else are you doing, really? It leads you to a narrow stairway spiraling up to the wall's walkway. You climb, breath shallow, legs burning. At the top, wind rushes past, cool and sharp. The view stretches in all directions, fields, hills, forest, river. And behind you, the twisted, glorious tangle of rooftops, chimneys, laundry lines, and bell towers that make up the city. It looks like a broken puzzle someone gave up on, but in a charming way. You walk along the walls slowly, boots echoing against the stone. Below, life unfolds in miniature. A cooper loads barrels, a woman scolds a pig, a group of children chase a ball that might once have been edible. You could watch for hours. You reach a turret. Inside, a man in chainmail naps with his helmet pulled. Lo! His sword is propped in the corner, collecting dust. You nod respectfully and leave him to his dream. Further along, the wind carries voices, chants, singing, some kind of procession. You follow the sound back down into the city's heart. Feast day, you didn't know, but apparently the entire city did. Banners hang from windows. Bread is being blessed. Children carry wooden saints on sticks like divine action figures. The streets are packed. People laugh, share food, swap news. A juggler balances a chicken. On his head, the chicken seems unfazed. Someone hands you a honey cake without explanation. You eat it. It's incredible. Possibly illegal. A group of musicians plays a song you don't recognize, but your feet seem to. You tap along, then dance, just a little. Enough to be noticed, enough to be part of it. There's something beautiful about how this city celebrates. No fireworks, no grand speeches. Just people. Dirty, tired, resilient, choosing joy. Historians still argue whether these festivals were state-organized rituals or grassroots resistance through celebration. Either way, they worked. They reminded people they were still alive. The sun sets. Lanterns glow amber and orange. The air thickens with music, the sizzle of meat and stories shouted above the noise. You drift between groups, sharing nods, half smiles, fragments of laughter. A boy runs past, holding a pie above his head like a crown. Someone chases him. You cheer for both. Later, in the quiet corners where the celebration fades, you find a man playing a soft tune on a hand-carved flute. He sits on a barrel, eyes closed, feet bare. You sit nearby. He doesn't stop playing and you don't speak. The song is gentle, circular, unfinished, and when it ends, he just says, "Good one, wasn't it?" You nod. It was. Back at the inn, you find a surprise: clean straw, fresh blankets, a small sprig of lavender tucked into the windowsill. The innkeeper gives you a wink, which is more unsettling than comforting, but you thank him anyway. You lie down, the scent of honey cake still lingering on your fingers, your legs warm from dancing, your chest light. You think about how many feet have walked these streets, how many voices have echoed between these crooked walls, how many stories have been whispered, shouted, sung, lost, and now you're part of them. Not a hero, not a noble, just one more soul who passed through. And somehow, that feels like enough. The next morning you wake up to a rare sound. Silence. No shouting, no clanging. Not even a suspicious goat attempting to break down a door. Just the soft rustle of wind through cracked shutters and the gentle creak of the tavern below settling. Like an old man into a favorite chair. You rise slowly, not out of dread. Just comfort, familiarity. Even your bones seem to understand the pace now. Downstairs, the innkeeper greets you with a nod and a bowl of warm grain porridge. You thank him. He doesn't respond, just gestures to a small loaf of bread left by someone with better baking skills than ambition. You step outside. The streets are wet with dew, glistening in the morning sun, like the city accidentally polished itself overnight. You walk slowly. There's no plan today. No market. No fire. No plague whisper. Just you, the streets, and whatever story decides to unfold. You wander into a neighborhood you've never explored. The houses are lower here, built with more wood than stone. You pass a row of tiny shops, a cobbler fitting a child for shoes, a woman selling ribbons, a man advertising a tonic that claims to prevent nightmares and improve digestion. You almost buy it, just in case it works on citywide trauma. A small crowd gathers ahead. Curious, you join them. A storyteller stands on a wooden crate, arms wide, voice booming. His tale is nonsense, something about a man who married a fish and built a castle of soup, but the delivery is flawless. The children squeal. The adults nod. You catch yourself smiling. This, more than sermons or swordplay, is the heart of the city, absurdity wrapped in wonder. You wander further, eventually reaching the university quarter, a cluster of buildings that look perpetually surprised to still be standing. Students lounge on stone steps, arguing about Aristotle or maybe lunch. A scholar reads aloud from a scroll while a chicken pecks at his sandals. You duck into a small scriptorium, half library, half chaotic attic. Shelves sag under the weight of parchment, dust dances in the sunlight. A young woman offers to show you something special. She leads you to a tiny alcove where a single book lies open on a lectern, illuminated, hand-copied, decorated with ink and gold leaf. The words are Latin, the pictures strange and wonderful. Dragons, eating their own tails, saints fighting snails, animals dressed as monks. You stare at it, heart oddly full. This isn't just a book, it's a miracle of survival, of hands long gone and minds still echoing. You whisper, "Thank you," though you're not sure to whom. Outside, bells ring, not for mass, not for death, just to remind you where you are. The city pulls you back into its rhythm. You stop by a bakery. The baker, somehow always covered in flour, offers you a pastry. He doesn't charge, just winks and says, "First one who's looked awake all day." You eat it slowly as you cross a small bridge over the river. The water sparkles beneath you, carrying secrets and scraps and the occasional vegetable. You lean on the railing, watching the world move around you. A mother soothes a crying baby. Two boys trade marbles for a frog. An old man sharpens a blade, humming tunelessly. It's not perfect, not even close, but it's real. You think about leaving. About going back to where time ticks predictably and the streets don't try to kill you. But the idea feels grey. Here, you never know what the day holds. Fire or music, ghosts or pie. Sometimes all of them at once. The city has changed you. Not by polishing you, but by wearing away the unnecessary bits. You head back slowly, past the square now filled with puppeteers, past the chapel where someone sings just off-key enough to be human, past the rat catcher, still losing his eternal battle. Back to the inn inside your room waits. The straw has become oddly comfortable. Gregory has returned, proudly dragging a crumb twice his size. You lie down, the pastry warmth still lingering in your chest, the scriptorium's images dancing behind your eyes. You whisper, to no one in particular, "I lived here." And the city in its own way whispers back, "You mattered." Your final day begins with sunlight, actual honest golden sunlight streaming through the hole in the ceiling like some celestial apology. You lie still for a moment, eyes half open, letting the warmth spill across your face. Even the dust motes dance more slowly, as if reluctant to break the spell. You rise, no rush, no dread, just one more walk through a city that somehow stopped being terrifying and started being yours. Downstairs, the innkeeper slides you a small sack of bread and cheese without a word. You nod. He nods. That's your language now. You step outside and breathe deep. The air smells like baking rye, fresh hay, and horses that haven't yet remembered they're late to be annoying. You head toward the river, following the gentle curve of the lane. The shops are just opening. A blacksmith yawns into his apron. A flower vendor arranges wilting violets with the reverence of a queen placing jewels. Even the butcher's window looks less like a crime scene today. You pass the square, quiet now, swept clean. The stage is empty, but scuffed with memories. Laughter, shouting, dancing, ghosts, pickpockets, knights, bakers, jugglers, saints, and that one time a chicken wore a crown. You smile and move on. Today, you walk for no reason at all. Past places that were once strange and are now familiar. That corner where you almost stepped into a public fountain. That door with the squeaky hinge. That cat who always looks like it knows your browser history. You visit the chapel once more. Light spills through stained glass onto worn stone. You sit on the same bench. Someone hums a hymn you almost recognize. You don't speak, you just breathe. Eventually you return to the city gate, the same gate that once loomed like the entrance to a nightmare. Now it's just a doorway, nothing more. You stand there for a while, one hand on the wall. A stone falls loose beneath your palm. You catch it, small, grey, unremarkable. You pocket it. You don't say goodbye, you just walk. 100-word wind-down begins. The road stretches ahead, narrow and soft beneath your feet, framed by trees that whisper in the early evening breeze. The sky deepens to that dusky blue where day and night meet in quiet agreement. You walk slowly, letting each step pull you further from the city. It doesn't chase, it doesn't cling, it just watches quietly, the way old places do, like a story that's finished its chapter but not quite the book. The air is cooler now. The fields roll out to meet the horizon, soft and golden, dotted with distant cottages and lazy smoke spirals. A bird calls once, then again, then silence. You find a place beneath a tree and sit. The grass is damp. The earth smells clean. The wind moves through the leaves in a language you're almost starting to understand. You close your eyes, and when you do, you hear it all again. The bells, the laughter, the footsteps, the whispers, the hiss of fire, the soft flutter of laundry, on a line. You remember the pie, the pigs, the candles, the flea named Gregory, the woman in the alley, the ghost in the song, the boy with the frog, the baker's wink. You carry it with you now, not just the memory, the texture of it, the feel of living. The city may not have been kind, but it was real, messy, loud, beautiful in its own broken rhythm. You take a deep breath, let it out slowly. Let your shoulders sink, let your breath lengthen, let sleep take you gently. The city will still be there, waiting, dreaming beside you.